A poor vendor shares his last meal with a shivering stranger. He wakes up to crowds the next day. The cold bit through the ragged layers of his threadbare clothes, but the vendor clutched his basket tightly, unwilling to let go of the meager goods he had for sale. The dawn was gray and misty, the streets slick with the remnants of last night's rain. He moved with a quiet desperation down the cracked sidewalk of the old market street, a forgotten corner of the city, where shadows lived longer than light. His feet throbbed inside worn sandals, soles patched many times, carrying not just his body but the weight of loneliness and hunger. His breath fogged in the morning air, mingling with the faint scent of damp earth and rotting leaves. This was a day like so many before, marked by struggle, invisibility, and the quiet hope that somehow he would survive. The vendor's name was Malik, a man whose smile had faded over years of hardship, but whose eyes still carried a spark. Fragile, flickering, but alive. He was a vendor of simple things, handcrafted trinkets, worn books, cheap spices, and today he had only enough food left for one small meal. He was not wealthy, not even close. In fact, poverty clung to him like a second skin, yet he carried an unseen treasure: kindness. His morning began as always, setting up his meager stall beneath a cracked awning that barely kept the rain at bay. The city stirred awake in disjointed sounds, the distant honk of buses, the clatter of shutters being raised, the murmur of early shoppers. Yet Malik's heart felt heavier than the weight of the basket on his back. He had just enough to feed himself for one day, no more, no less, and every mouthful had to be rationed with ruthless precision. He thought about his small, cold room above the shuttered bakery where he slept. The walls were thin, the air stale, and every night he drifted into sleep with a silent prayer to the sky. As he arranged the last of his goods, a sudden movement caught his eye. A figure huddled near the edge of the street, shivering uncontrollably. A young man, no older than Malik himself, wrapped in tattered layers soaked through from the night's rain, trembling as though the cold would swallow him whole. Malik's heart clenched. Without hesitation, Malik approached. The stranger looked up with hollow eyes, face gaunt and pale, lips blue from cold. The vendor's voice was low but steady. "Here, take this." He offered the last of his warm bread and a small cup of steaming tea. The stranger's hands trembled as he accepted the offering, tears welling in eyes too tired for tears. There was no hesitation from Malik. The last meal was not just food. It was hope, a lifeline thrown in a sea of despair. The stranger's name was Samir. Once a promising student, life had twisted him into this state of fragility. Lost to addiction and abandonment, the streets had become his home and his prison. But for this brief moment, the warm bread in his hands was a balm to a broken spirit. They shared the meal in silence, broken only by the quiet sounds of the waking city. That simple act of sharing, of giving the last piece of warmth to a stranger, would soon unravel a chain of events that neither man could have foreseen. Malik's day unfolded slowly, the marketplace awakening fully as sun pierced through thinning clouds. Yet word of his generosity spread quietly. The people of the neighborhood were not rich, but they had eyes, and they noticed the vendor who gave his last meal to a stranger with nothing. Some smiled, others shook their heads in disbelief. How could a man with so little give so much? As the sun climbed higher, a strange restlessness grew in the air. Whispers of Malik's kindness began to weave through the streets like a gentle wind. The local shopkeepers, once indifferent, paused their routines. Children playing nearby stopped to stare with wide eyes, their innocence touched by the rare sight of true selflessness. It was as if the city itself took note. That evening, Malik returned to his small room, weary and uncertain. His stomach gnawed with hunger, yet his spirit was lighter. He lay down on the thin mattress, the events of the day replaying like a fragile dream. Outside, the city lights blinked awake one by one, and the street below settled into silence. But fate was not yet done weaving its tapestry. At dawn, Malik was startled awake by the distant sound of voices, louder, growing closer, a murmur that grew into a roar. He stumbled outside, blinking against the sudden brightness of morning, and gasped. The street he had walked down alone just a day before was now thronged with people. Men, women, children, all gathered, faces alight with hope and reverence. In the center, standing tall and calm, was Samir. No longer the shivering shadow Malik had fed, Samir now wore clean clothes, his posture straight, his eyes shining with a newfound strength. Behind him stood a small group of local dignitaries, journalists, and neighbors holding cameras and microphones. The crowd was there to honor Malik, the poor vendor who had given the last meal to a stranger, unknowingly, planting the seed of a movement. Samir stepped forward, voice steady and clear. "This man saved my life," he said, eyes locking with Malik's. "Not with money or promises, but with kindness when I had nothing left." The crowd erupted in applause, tears streaming down faces weathered by hardship. Malik, overwhelmed, felt the impossible swell within him, a warmth deeper than any meal could provide. In that moment, the city remembered its soul, and Malik's simple act of compassion became a beacon for all. The story of Malik and Samir is not just a tale of hunger and generosity. It is a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can ignite the brightest flames of hope. It is proof that even in the darkest corners, humanity can shine through, changing lives in ways we never expect. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today.